I'm Chris Fowler for SportsCentury. Like the Japanese steakhouse for which he was named, Kobe Bryant was a product of privilege and was prepared for one purpose: to please the palate and satisfy the appetite. Raised in Italy by an extraordinarily close family, he was composed far beyond his years. Possessing such flair that some dared make comparisons to Michael Jordan, Bryant leaped directly from high school to the NBA. The landing was not pain-free, but he has persevered and now has a game as distinctive as his name.
I'm not Michael Jordan. There'll never be another Michael Jordan. He's the greatest player of all time, and nobody can fill his shoes, period.
Anybody who comes into the league with a game that at all emulates Jordan's has been compared to Jordan, and I think Kobe was just one in a line of guys who's got some incredible game. Maybe this is the next one.
We got to find the next superstar. We've got to make this guy the next somebody. Where in the old days, they didn't make you, you made yourself.
It's terrible to try to put him in a class with a Michael Jordan when he hadn't played a game. Michael Jordan's the greatest player that ever played, and Kobe Bryant is making his own reputation, and he's trying to establish his own identity.
There was a media feeding frenzy. I just thought that that was not a thing to do to young Kobe. Let this young man develop into the extraordinary talent that it appears that he's going to develop into, and then we'll all enjoy the ride.
Dunked in by Bryant. Jordan, look at that! Michael Jordan! That is where you do the comparisons with Jordan.
I've guarded Michael Jordan, and I've guarded Kobe also. Really can't tell the difference from them apart.
Everybody knew what Michael Jordan was going to do when he had the basketball. You just couldn't stop him. It's just a different situation with Kobe. You don't know what he's going to do because he hits you with so many different ways.
Usually a couple times a game, Kobe will do something where I'll just go, God, that looked just like Michael.
Quick move to the hoop, Kobe Bryant. That's his game.
When he first came to the league, he had a bald head. You know, everyone's paying on the mic. His tongue came out his mouth. They blew that up like, yeah, he's sticking his tongue out like a mic.
You know, he came in, won a dunk contest his rookie year, and people were like, you know, he wants to try to be like Mike too much.
Deep down inside, I think he thought it was great because here you got a 17-year-old kid compared to the greatest player in the world.
If you know the Lakers situation, they called him 23. That's his nickname. It was like the second coming of Michael Jordan. Whether he liked it or not, I don't know, but he didn't shy away from it.
That's a big misconception. I patterned my game after Michael's. Growing up, I studied Michael as I studied Magic, as I studied Larry. And being 6'6", some of the moves that he uses on the court, well, obviously benefit me a great deal.
Kobe would say that he was trying to emulate all of the big guys, but it was evident. The blueprint of Michael Jordan was right there. He wanted to be the tracing paper.
If Michael took 500 jump shots, he took 1,000. If Michael got up and worked out at 8, Kobe was working out at 7:30. So he was trying to catch up to that and be beyond.
We were playing for hours and hours, just dreaming about what we will be. And he was Michael Jordan every time.
While Kobe Bryant worked to make his court dreams a reality, he was already savvy at the tricky game of public relations.
Kobe has this composure at age 17 and 18 that is completely belying his actual age. He's very good at speaking with the media, and there was something about it that even that was Jordan-like.
He was way ahead of his time. I can remember distinctly watching him on the back of the bus, you know, where everybody else is reading Sports Illustrated or sports section of the paper. He has Time magazine, but 18 years old.
Me meeting Kobe for the first time outside the House of Blues in L.A., he called me sir. Very well-mannered young man.
He understands certain things about the business that could only have come from living the life that he lived under his father and in his family.
He's the son of a pro. He's seen his father's transition through it. It's like Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr. These guys who come from that, you know, who, I guess, step into their father's light, understand what to stay away from.
After signing a lucrative 5-year contract with Adidas before he even played in his first NBA game, Bryant was embraced by a media in the hunt for another Jordan.
Please welcome Kobe Bryant.
This is a guy whose popularity is right up there with Jordan's, and whose commercial appeal is up there, whose charisma and whose personality are all on that same plane.
You don't have to cut the lawn ever again, do you?
See, now the good thing about it, I get to give my parents allowance.
Yeah, oh, yeah, give them allowance, yeah. That's it. You got a new car 2 years ago.
Like, you forgot to take the trash out. Come on. Y'all work with me here.
Growing up in the suburbs, not necessarily being viewed as a street kid, he has a crossover appeal. He's a GQ cover guy, and yet when he's on the court, he plays like any kid in any inner city.
Kobe's marketability is probably the same as MJ's was back in MJ's earlier years. Both guys were attractive to the public, not involved in a lot of scandals.
Hey, I can play.
Do you know how?
I'm not bad.
He's tall. What do you think? All right, let's play! Hey, if we win, we get to go to McDonald's. So don't play.
Beyond his early success at the Fame game, it was Bryant's passion on the court that triggered references to greatness.
Kobe Bryant is an unbelievably competitive person. And if there's one area that he reminds me of to some degree, that would be in the competitive area to Michael Jordan.
Despite the fact he's played in pain.
And he loves the ball at the end of the game, and you sort of know he's going to get it. And it's very Jordan-esque in a way.
He has enormous respect for Michael, and Michael has a lot of respect for him. Michael really respects perfection and greatness.
He speaks to Michael. He asks advice about how to deal with teammates, how to deal with media, how to deal with life, how to deal with being famous. He wanted to take the things that Michael Jordan did that made him successful and apply them to himself.
In his second season with the Lakers, Bryant, at 19, was the youngest player ever to start in an All-Star game. Across the floor stood the man who would take his measure.
There are full-page ads taken out, NBA, All-Star Game, East, West, Kobe, Michael. Kobe embraced it, as Kobe does. And he embraced the moment, too.
He's got the ball in his hands again. To Garnett, back to Kobe!
I watched him go at MJ. I've never seen that. He let everybody know what was to come. And if you had any question about who was to take the seat, it was going to be him.
Although Jordan was named MVP of that 1998 All-Star game, Bryant's 18-point performance favorably impressed the man whose crown he sought.
Hey, it was a good battle, actually. It was fun. He attacked, and I like his attitude.
You won't find a better competitor in the history of sport than Michael Jordan at both ends of the floor. Kobe will get there. Kobe's an outstanding competitor offensively. When Kobe learns to work both ends of the floor, Kobe's going to be lights out.
Kobe's probably the only player out there that really believes he can actually have a better legacy than Michael Jordan.
If you think of Michael Jordan, when a lot of people thought he was at his peak, as far as wisdom and cunning and skills and seeing the game, he was in his early 30s. I mean, Kobe will be, what, 15-year veteran by then?
If Kobe Bryant was running ahead of schedule, much of his early growth occurred in a place and culture far from the playgrounds of America.
Living in Italy, you're going back in time, and a culture that is very rich, a lot of traditions.
Italy is a country that I always say is full of history. We have thousands of years of history, culture.
It wasn't the hustle bustle of America. It was a little bit more laid back and much more relaxed.
A lot of family values in the sense that you eat every meal together. You really get close to your families.
You're having lunch together every day. You're having dinner together every day. The whole family, you do things together.
In Italy, the family is the thing most important of all.
In 1984, Joe Bryant, who played 8 seasons in the NBA, took his wife Pam and their 3 children to Italy to play professional basketball. Kobe, their only son, was 5.
They took a lot of the best attributes of Italian life and applied them to their own family. They spent a lot of time having meals together, going out and sightseeing, going out for walks. going to their father's basketball games.
A lot of American players, when they come over here and play, they leave the family in the United States. But Joe brought everybody over here, integrated them in the Italian schools.
My family and I really had to bond together. You go into to us, it's like a whole other world. You don't speak the language. You don't know anybody out there. And so all you have is one another. As a result, I've become very, very loyal.
Jellybean Bryant, who averaged 30 points over 7 seasons, flourished in the exuberant culture of the Italian League.
The fans in Italy are very passionate. They would throw coins, spit at people, just completely go out of your mind.
The basketball was very different from the NBA. We were now playing one game a week and having the rest of the week to just practice a couple hours a day, enjoy your time with your family, explore a new country, and just kind of enjoy life.
Jellybean Bryant was a role player who came off the bench. His NBA career was a moderate career, and I think that he felt that he could become more of a player in Europe, which he did.
He became what they called Magic Bryant. He became a celebrity. He led the league in scoring. Joe and his whole family were kind of idolized all across Italy as a whole.
I remember talking to Kobe. He was able to sing me the Italian songs that the fans sang for his father in perfect Italian.
Growing up in the glow of his father's stardom, Kobe learned firsthand what it takes to live in a fishbowl.
He was very mature for the age. He was always very polite, very educated, always talking with a low voice, never angry. He was always walking with his head up, with a lot of self-esteem.
When we were visiting his family at his home, Kobe came running inside the house and up the stairs. 10 seconds later, he came running back in the house again. He was running upstairs, jumping out of the second-story window into the lawn, and running around like it was a game.
One time, he went to a MC Hammer concert, and all the guys on the stage saw him dancing. It was so good that they asked him to go on stage.
This is almost like the first test tube NBA superstar. He learned to play in a sense of isolation. He was thousands of miles away from Americans. He was playing in a country where soccer was the top sport.
Kobe was a very, very quiet person. He always thought about basketball, basketball, basketball.
He didn't want to be just like his pop. He wanted to be much better than his pop. He had that drive.
He'd come out on the court during the timeouts and shoot around all the time and dribble up and down the court. You had to chase him off the court so we could start the game back.
When we finished practicing, he wants to, let's play some horse. Let's see who can outshoot who. Let's play some one-on-one. And he would just stay there. And, it'd be time for the gym manager sometimes. Hey, it's time to go. So I'm going to lock the gym up and go. And here's Kobe and still in there shooting around.
Off the court, Kobe often waited for the mailman to deliver care packages from his grandparents back in the U.S.
Well, they used to send us all types of TV shows, movies. But what I most looked forward to getting was the games. I wanted to see basketball.
We tried to imitate our idols, like Larry Bird, like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson.
But he definitely made a study of the Lakers when Magic was there. And we'd watch videotapes together, and his father would say, look at Magic here. See how he sets up this guy?
We watched Come Fly With Me maybe 1,000 times. It was more studying the video, studying everything of Jordan.
In December of 1991, the Bryants moved back to the States, settling in a suburb of Kobe's native Philadelphia. A year later, he entered Lower Merion High School, where his star not only began to rise, it rocketed.
A lot about this youngster who at the time was 13 years old. I invited him to scrimmage against our varsity. After 5 minutes of play against my varsity, I turned to my assistant coaches and I said, this kid's a pro.
Kobe learned so much from his father on the court, just little things that only his dad as a professional basketball player could have taught him, like pinching you in the ribs to get a rebound or elbowing you in the right spot or holding your jersey.
As Lower Merion's JV coach, Joe Bryant concentrated on his son's every move on the varsity.
His father would yell something out in Italian, and he would kind of glance over at his father, nod his head, and then do something nasty on the floor.
Oh, no!
first year here, they were 4-20, something like that. But he started. He was the first freshman starter here at Lower Merion High School in maybe 2-3 decades.
John Lucas, who at the time was coaching the Sixers, started coming to a lot of our games. Kobe got invited by John to scrimmage at St. Joe's University with some of the current Sixers.
He and Stackhouse played one-on-one, McDice. He played with all our guys, and Kobe was always at any workouts. Kobe showed up. He beat everybody. I said, the guy's a pro.
Averaging 31 points and 12 rebounds, Bryant took Lower Merion into the state playoffs, only to get knocked out in the semifinals. The taste of defeat was bitter.
We went in the locker room, the whole team was crying. He said, I hate this feeling. He said, you know, man, next time we stop playing basketball, it's because there's no games left.
Bryant started his senior season with 2 goals. One was to win the state championship. The other was less public and considerably more ambitious.
The first day of practice, Kobe was reaching and grabbing and clutching a lot on defense. Kobe's first reaction when I was getting on him about reaching was, I'm getting ready to play pro defense.
He's the best player in the country. Didn't know he was going to go pro. Everybody wanted to go and see Kobe play. Everybody.
Our games turned into sellouts and ticket scalping and people offering $1,000 for tickets to the state championship game. It was similar to traveling with a rock star.
It's so packed where you have people standing up on the side, people in the hallway looking into the game, NBA scouts, college scouts.
We had to stand like 4 rows of people deep, standing. Couldn't get, we were getting in the stands.
All the top schools in the country would just come in. Every day the coaches would come with a new basketball letter from another team.
Kobe would get them at the end of school, and we'd all sort of sit out in this corridor hanging out. And Kobe would just give out letters to whoever, unopened letters.
After leading the Aces to the 1996 state championship, Bryant added a new dimension to his celebrity by taking TV and recording star Brandy to his prom. Meanwhile, colleges knocked on his door, but Bryant was looking to live his dreams sooner rather than later.
He really believed at the time, even at like 18, 19 years old, if I enter the NBA right now, I will be one of the 10 best players in the league.
Jordan and Barkley were getting older at the time, and it was one of his dreams to step onto the court and square off against players of that caliber.
Now, I remember reading something about Magic playing against professional players when he was in high school, and that kind of triggered an idea. Of course, Kevin Garnett made the jump. That kind of helped me out a little bit as well.
Widely acclaimed as the finest prep player in the nation, Kobe Bryant could play basketball at any college in the country.
I don't think it's no rush to get him in the pros. I think that's his dream. I mean, what's rushing your dream?
He made a call to me to ask me, should I think about going to NBA? And I just said, then, what did your father say? He said, Father said, go for it. I said, well, then you need to go for it.
No, I have decided to skip college and take my talent to the NBA.
He had his sunglasses on his top of his head. I thought it was a little much. You know, here's a 17, 18-year-old kid kind of acting like he's Michael Jordan already.
For the next week, 98% of the calls going on sports radio and on the TV reports were, this is the dumbest thing we've ever heard. Why is this kid doing that? I can't believe he's giving up a chance for an education.
It's an opportunity of a lifetime. I feel it's time for me to go out and seize it while I'm still young.
At that point in time, high school kids had really not been a part of the process of identifying NBA players.
The guy coming out of high school straight into the NBA was almost a joke.
We don't want them in the NBA. People don't want to babysit 18 and 19-year-old kids.
You got a lot of guys thinking that they're ready for the NBA when they really should go to college. If you really have the talent, the college game will only enhance what you have.
My first thought was really that you like to see someone like Kobe get a couple of years of seasoning in college so that he doesn't have to spend as much time on the bench and he would grow a bit.
Kobe being in the NBA environment virtually all his life with his dad, and the cultural adjustments of growing up in Europe gave him a comfort zone that I don't think you'd find many teenagers would have. This is a kid who's smart, he's lived abroad, he's very comfortable with himself. If this kid doesn't go to college, who does?
With the 13th pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
After I was drafted, I'm on the phone with the accountants, and he's like, well, you don't have too much use for you here in Charlotte. So we're thinking of trading, to Los Angeles. Okay, all right.
Even before the draft, the Lakers showed more than a passing interest in Bryant.
Just got a chance to just do some drill work with him. And then Jerry West says, Coop, let's go down the low post and work him out there. So I start guarding Kobe, and all of a sudden he's hitting me with all these elbows as he's turning. We knew then that he was going to be a good player.
West called me right afterwards and said, Chick, I got a guy I got to have. And then I said, who was it? He told me his name. I said, I never heard of it. He said, he's just coming out of high school. I said, you got to be crazy.
The thing that most impressed me about him was his ability to articulate the reasons why he wanted to play in the league.
We get a chance to spend some interview time with him behind closed doors, and all the questions we hit him with, he answered them appropriately, wasn't shy, was very candid about a lot of things.
15 days after the draft, the Lakers acquired Bryant in a trade for their starting center, Vlade Divac.
He knew that he could be a great player at this level, but it's your mental toughness that's going to keep you in the league, and if you keep yourself healthy, that'll make you a superstar.
Armed with sensational ability, a blistering work ethic, and a social sophistication beyond his 18 years, Kobe Bryant hit the City of Angels, where young stars often vault to the top or burn out in mid-flight.
Lakers have always been looked at as one of the elite teams going back from the Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West days, and the Showtime years with Magic Johnson and MoeDee and those guys.
The first time I met him, he was thrilled to death, because he remembered us back in the day playing, to put that Laker uniform on. It seemed like that was probably the most exciting day of his life.
Physically, when he got here, he was good or better than anyone he played against. He had great size, great ball handling ability, great speed and quickness.
After we finished practice, he wanted to go, are they playing at Venice Beach? Kobe just finished an NBA practice. You don't need to go play again. He wanted to go to high schools and play. He wanted to go to UCLA and play. His whole mentality was still play, 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 play.
I heard the ball bouncing in the form, and the lights weren't on. And I walked past, and I look in there, and it's Kobe. He's in there in the dark shooting.
Accustomed to being alone after a childhood in which he moved many times, Bryant suffered the pangs of an emotional solitude defined by age, or lack of it.
Kobe came with the Lakers. I was 36 years old and he was 18, so I'm looking at this kid saying, this kid could be mine.
I didn't have anything in common with these guys. There's nothing to talk about. I was more focused on the game of basketball.
It was tough to get a feel for Kobe because you couldn't compare yourself or you couldn't empathize with what he was going through.
The difficult part about young kids jumping into this world, because it's really a man's world, the NBA, and obviously you might be able to play it athletically, but it's a mental thing and it's a social aspect that you have to deal with.
He just seemed to be a loner. He wasn't one of those guys that wanted to hang out all the time, too young to go to bars and all that stuff.
If you didn't speak to Kobe first, he may not speak. And at first I was kind of taken aback by that and almost offended.
It wasn't really to shy away from his teammates. He's just used to being alone. He got along with everybody, but at the same time, I don't think he really wanted to attach himself to somebody.
One of the players told me that they were told not to touch him. He was not to be hazed and not to be pushed, and it came from the top, and that caused some animosity.
He's got endorsement contracts coming in already. He's got an Adidas deal. There's going to be jealousy factors the second he walks through the door. And so they're talking behind Kobe's back some. While they're kind of teasing him, Shaq's calling him Showboat.
Showboat played a good game for his first game.
I really look forward to going out there.
Have you autographed Showboat, Bryant? I've been watching you a long time, man.
He kind of liked that name. I don't think he understood that some guys say that kind of represent him trying to be one-on-one and trying to do everything on his own.
Kobe was a little bit different because he had the game that no one on the Laker team had. He played the game with a real flair, and sometimes there was a little too much mustard on the hot dog.
Kobe won't do that.
He would make a big play. Guys wouldn't be applauding. No one would come and greet him. There was no congratulations. The feeling was, hey, you think you're great. You think you're going to step on us to be great. We'll watch, but we're not going to support you.
There's a pecking order in the NBA, and Kobe was just trying to do what he did in high school and not understanding that you have 4 other players that can get it done.
When I first came into the league, I was more trying to prove myself as an individual basketball player. Not really thinking about my teammates or trying to lead them.
because that wasn't my role. It was obvious that he was going to be a superstar. But first couple of years, he made more turnovers than he did assists. He was a little bit too aggressive to shoot the basketball.
Bounce pass to Kobe, comes underneath, puts it up. He viewed himself as a player who could come in and make an immediate impact. That's not going to happen for any high school kid.
You had a lot of people that could not stand Kobe Bryant. Daryl Harris wouldn't allow him to make fancy moves in practice. If he'd made a spectacular move, Daryl wouldn't even count the basket.
And he never got playing time. It was killing him, because in his mind, he's doing everything that he's supposed to do to get to that point in his career where he can shine.
That was part of Kobe's frustration as well, being the youngest guy and, almost feeling like his desire was greater than everyone's.
That desire would have its moment in Game 5 of the 1997 Western Conference semifinals against Utah. With the game tied and seconds left, the passionate rookie held the world in his hands.
Kobe Bryant will take it. An 18-year-old rookie. Short. No time remains.
Nobody else wanted to take that shot. Kobe was the only one to step up and say, I want to take this shot.
Bryant for the tie. He has shot blanks this entire overtime.
The Lakers at that particular time was looking for a go-to player. And going back to high school, his ball has been placed in his hands to do one thing, and that's to make something happen.
What a chance if he gets close to foul. Bryant for the tie. Another air ball. And the Utah Jazz going to the Western Conference Finals.
After the game, he was very disappointed in himself. But the one thing I can remember is looking at this kid saying, man, he's going to come back next year. He's going to be even better.
In 1999, Bryant became a starter, averaging 20 points in the regular season. But his offense was not enough to keep the Lakers from being swept by the Spurs in the playoffs. Enter a new coach, whose insights and powers of persuasion guided the Bulls to a dynasty. Round ball guru Phil Jackson.
This is a team that is talented. It's young. It's on the verge. I just had a chance to meet Kobe Bryant. He's dedicated. He's competitive. He reminds me a lot of Michael Jordan, and there's not too many players that have ever done that in this game.
Phil's success as a coach definitely creates a sense of respect amongst the players. When you have a guy that's won 6 championships, you kind of turn yourself over to that format.
Jackson was unbelievably demanding of Kobe. He understood right away that this is a guy who's so tough and so strong that I can really go after him and he can handle it.
If you're lust to score and you have this ego problem that's getting in the way of the game, then you're going to have trouble. He's got too many players that he'd disrespect if he did it.
Phil's known as the master of mind games. Kobe looked at Phil when that became an issue and said, just coach. Just tell me what to do. You don't have to manipulate me. You don't have to motivate me. I'm in first gear, ready to go.
In Game 7 of the 2000 Western Conference Finals against the Trailblazers, Bryant posted 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. But it wasn't stats that defined his maturity. It was poise in crunch time.
Bryant to shot!
You look at the dynamics of that play, and Kobe was trying to crash through the defense like he always had before, beat 5 guys and dunk it in everybody's face. But the difference was that he had learned that that's not the way to win it.
After eliminating the Blazers, the Lakers held a 2-1 lead over Indiana in the NBA Finals. Having sat out Game 3 with a sprained ankle, Bryant played in Game 4 and took over after Shaquille O'Neal fouled out with 2.5 minutes left in overtime.
Kobe's looking over at the big fellow on the bench saying, don't worry about a thing, man. I got it.
Kobe just literally takes the whole game and just puts it on his shoulder.
How good is this kid? That was the performance that, up until that time, really, you'd only seen a player like Michael Jordan do. People in the stands in Indiana talk about, who is that guy wearing number 8? Is that a 23, and all of a sudden he changed jerseys?
Shaw, running one-hander, followed in by Kobe Bryant.
Now no one's going to skirt around, is he Michael Jordan, is he the next or anything? Well, he's the next.
The 2000 NBA Finals served to help heal the relationship between Kobe and his teammates. And it led to some early belief that everything was fine. But throughout Kobe and Shaq's tenure together at Los Angeles, the old ghosts have a tendency to revisit.
opposites attract. You respect what is different about the other person. And with Shaq and Kobe, there wasn't that.
Shaquille and Kobe are very different personalities. Shaquille's very playful, and Kobe is a more serious person.
While Shaq is the older one and the bigger one, Kobe is by far the most mature and reserved. That's the way they approach basketball in a lot of ways. Shaq would look at Kobe and say, lighten up. And Kobe would look at Shaq and say, get serious.
There was a team meeting, and Shaquille O'Neal spent a lot of time saying, we cannot win with Kobe Bryant. Of course, Kobe's sitting right there, and he took it.
Kobe was very young and impulsive, and Shaq just felt that he didn't really understand the importance of team play, the importance that Shaq played with the team.
These hard feelings built up over time. During a 2-on-2 pickup game, Shaq slapped Kobe. It was obvious that this was something that would never be forgotten. It was a hard moment.
Such episodes, not all of them with O'Neal, have tended to drive Bryant to achieve ever higher levels of play. After winning an NBA championship, he hardly took a breath before steeling himself for the next season.
I remember him saying he took 2 weeks off and went right back to training for the next year. Now, that's amazing. You're supposed to sit back and let people pat you on your back. He was right back in the gym.
Everybody on the team sort of had a bigger ego because they were champs. They all believed that their way is the right way.
Therein lies the adjustment, handling the success of a championship, putting the egos aside once again with the understanding that it's a team concept.
I felt like it was really my job to make sure the team was moving in the right direction and to really become more of a vocal leader.
Shaq comes in, he's out of shape, he's gonna kind of cruise through the regular season, and Kobe comes in, he's been shooting jump shots every day, every hour, every minute.
Kobe said, okay, I can either reward myself for all the things I've done, or I can give it to this guy who can't get up and down the court and who they're going to foul at the end of the game. So tell me what I'm doing wrong here.
Sometimes I wish he was a little bit more diplomatic. Kobe's going to be Kobe. That's the one thing I've learned, I respect about him. He's very opinionated. He's very honest.
Things finally hit their low point between Kobe and Shaq in January 2001. ESPN magazine's just done its major story on Kobe, in which Kobe expresses some of his frustrations of trying to fit in, wanting to turn his game up, not down, and it all blows up when that story hits.
When everything went through me, the outcome was good. If the big dog ain't me, then the house won't get guarded. Period.
People wanted me to just kind of level off my play and not improve and just do the same thing I did last year. And I'm not going to do that. And I work too hard, and I improve as a basketball player every day, and I want to show that I improve.
Shaq told me I'm too big to ride in the backseat of anybody else's car.
Kobe called other teams and said, you know, is there any way that a trade could be arranged?
Phil Jackson just stepped back. He still allowed Kobe to be himself, and he allowed Shaq to be himself. And when they did clash and bump heads, he let them figure it out for themselves.
You almost get the impression that the two guys just can't stand to be in the same room together. And it's just not that way. It's almost like a family situation, like a big brother, younger brother situation where there are good days, there are bad days.
I can remember having the same problems with Magic. We had different personalities, but we were able to communicate. We didn't have to be like best of friends. And the same thing with Kobe.
We had our moments where it was hard to play with one another, but we never disliked one another.
It wasn't so much that Kobe had to develop a relationship with Shaq as he had to develop a relationship with that entire team. Kobe had always kept to himself.
I can remember time and time again him getting a new CD. Either before or after practice, he would sit in his car and just listen to the CD all the way through. Spend hours and hours just listening to music in his car. A couple of times he would have his earphones on and no music just to hear what people are saying.
Guys on our team questioned whether or not, Kobe really wanted to be a part of our group and wanted to do what was best for not only him, but for our team.
He plunged into very, very dark mood. He told me that the thing that was really tough, it was just very difficult to have worked so hard to be as good as he could be and to be misperceived by so many people as such a selfish, arrogant, internally focused person.
In the spring of 2001, Bryant, hampered by a sore left ankle, began to slowly surface from his grim-minded self-determination.
You got to sit back and watch. And that's when he told me the maturity factor came in.
I started to open up more to my teammates. I felt like I could trust them more, and vice versa.
You could see Kobe interacting with more guys on the bus, on the plane. You could tell that he made an effort to just be more responsive around guys.
Suddenly, they see the personality that he wouldn't let them see before. And he sees that these guys aren't out to get me. Maybe I need to lighten up. And maybe they need to get a little serious. Maybe we can meet halfway.
He's on a breakaway. He gets a shot, and Shaq slam dunk.
This offense that Phil Jackson designed, and the first and many times the last option will be Shaquille O'Neal. And I think Kobe's accepted that and understood just how important that is for the success of this team.
Both of them came to realize that they needed each other. Shaq finally said, well, if we're going to have a championship team, I'd like to have Kobe Bryant on my club. And Kobe recognized that if we were going to have a good championship team, that Shaq had to be there.
One particular meeting, he stood up and said, he cared about everybody on his team, and he said, I love Shaq like a big brother, and always have, and, I just want to go out and play and have fun and win.
I told Kobe today he was my idol. He's playing. No, I'm serious. He's playing phenomenal. I think he's the best player in the league by far.
We're very good friends, actually. We enjoy playing together to the point where sometimes Phil has to get on us because we're playing too much together. And our friendship has grown tremendously.
With Bryant and O'Neal playing together, the Lakers dominated the 2001 playoffs, winning a record 15 of 16 games on their way to a second straight NBA title.
What animosity? They must have been a farce because I didn't see any of it in the playoffs. Those two were in sync, on the same page every game.
They use their competitiveness to bring everybody else together to fight for that one common goal, which is winning a championship.
Back-to-back titles for the Los Angeles Lakers.
It takes two to make these things go right.
He's more open now as a person because of his success, and once again, just growth and maturity. He's definitely a different ball player, a better basketball player.
But what I found out is that the game of basketball has really been a great teacher of life. Unending challenges, teamwork, doing things together.
Doesn't let anybody know that he wants to. He doesn't work out most of the time with the Lakers. He works out at different gyms, just so nobody is aware of that.
Kobe is a guy that if you ask him, he'll talk to you about certain things, but almost gives you the impression that, he's going to take care of his and his space, and you take care of yours, and when it's time for us to come together, we will.
I got Kobe to go out in Miami. He was engaged, he was talking, he was cool, and then he went south. It's 1 o'clock. I go, I know, it's good. I said, man, he was like, no, 1 o'clock, I gotta go back. I got training in the morning. Come on, dog, I told you 1 o'clock.
Basketball is this kid's life. That's all he ever wanted to do. I asked him, I think it was, what was the greatest Christmas present you ever got? And he went back, he said, I remember I got my first leather official NBA basketball. And how for years, he slept with that basketball.
Sitting back on the couch, he's drinking some water. He takes the cap, he sees the wastebasket, tries to fire it. It's probably 30 feet. He misses. He spent the next 3 hours. Everything else is out the window. He tried 100 times. He finally nails it. And he throws up his hands. I win.
In 1999, after a very disappointing season, I asked him what he was going to do in the off-season. He said, basketball. There is nothing else. 3 years later, I posed the question, has your life changed? He said, very much. I'm a married man now. I'm just learning what it means to be a husband, and someday I'll learn what it means to be a father. And I'm very much focused on basketball, but I see the bigger picture.
At a secret ceremony in Dana Point, California in April of 2001, Bryant married 19-year-old Vanessa Lane.
Kobe's the classic control freak. We were going to report that he had gotten married. He'd successfully hidden it from everybody, and he was extremely upset because he felt like he had the situation kind of under control.
He's seen what the mass invasion of privacy can do. He's very much a family-oriented guy, and he's not going to let them be dragged into the newspapers.
I asked him, I said, why you getting married so young? He said, I do everything young. I went pro young. I'm going to have my children young. We'll retire at 28 years old. Then go to Italy and play on my own squad. When someone dies, they go live for today, tomorrow's not promised. This is the only person that does it.
As a player possessed by his own talent, Kobe Bryant seems to have little feeling for the past. When he returned to Philadelphia to play the 76ers in the 2001 finals, he showed not a wisp of nostalgia.
He just didn't want the distraction of owning up to his own emotions about playing in his hometown. And so he kind of gives some brushing off remarks.
What about going back to Philadelphia, your old home?
I don't really care. I just want to go out there and play and, try to do what it takes to win the ball game.
Kobe, anytime he talks about playing on the road, he loves the hostility. He feeds off that. And I don't think it affected him that much in the finals necessarily, but it certainly affected him at the All-Star game.
8 months after defeating the Sixers in the finals, Bryant went home again to Philadelphia for the 2002 All-Star game. Although he scored 31 points and was named MVP, there was no love lost in Philly.
Kobe Bryant. It was so disheartening and so disappointing. Yet he stood up there, he acknowledged it, and he handled it with such class and such dignity.
I find it unbelievable that the fans are booing you here. Does that hurt your feelings?
Yeah, my feelings are hurt, man. I mean, I'm just out there trying to play and have a good time, and my feelings are hurt being from Philadelphia.
He's articulate, and he didn't have that kind of street sound to him. He sounded like a guy who came from a prep school in a Philly suburb.
I think people try to pick on Kobe Bryant. I saw him get punched against Portland. People are jealous of Kobe, and they try to take shots at him.
There's this sort of ethos out there where basketball players are accepted or rejected at the street level. Kobe's not seen as hard enough. Kobe won't wear his hair in braids. Kobe doesn't hang out, so Kobe equals soft.
I didn't grow up in the streets, but I played with a certain attitude, a certain aggression, and a competitive spirit and a tenacity.
Now we've got a fight. Reggie Miller and Kobe Bryant are going at each other at midcourt. The benches have emptied, and this is a major brawl.
He's going to have to make a stand because when you're really good, people don't like you. He just draw a line in the sand and say, I'm not backing down anymore.
I think it's Kobe trying to stand up as a man now. He wants to let people know that he's not a kid anymore. He's trying to win respect. He wants people to understand that he's not going to back off. And so he's been a little more aggressive.
Jordan was a ruthless competitor, really tough on teammates as well as opponents. He loved to go for the jugular, and I think Kobe fashions himself as that kind of player. Again, it's Kobe going to Jordan's level.
What transpires henceforth is going to be the measure as to whether or not you can compare him to Michael Jordan.
The pull-up jump shot, no short. Bryant underneath, not good. Kobe Bryant.
I don't think he wants to be the heir apparent. I think he wants to be the next, Kobe Bryant. Kids want to say, I want to be like Kobe, and I think that's what he wants.
Less than 2 weeks before Christmas of 1999, Kobe Bryant bought himself a pro basketball team. He was all of 21. Saying it represented a return to roots, he purchased half interest in Olimpia Milano, a franchise in the Italian League, which he had followed growing up. Although disputes with the co-owner led to a dissolution of the partnership, at least for a while, Kobe was not only making the shots, he was also, along with his father Joe, calling them. For SportsCentury, I'm Chris Fowler.